Hello, fellas, and what? What the heck is Jacob Throneberry of Awards Watch doing here?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How did you get on my Zoom call that I'm recording
Um,
for some reason?
so this has all been planned. I
Oh, right,
knew
right.
I studied Adriano's past videos and I have figured out the exact time. I'm actually outside of your house doing this.
Hey!
But I'm gonna stay out there. I'm not gonna come in. I
Okay,
wouldn't want to bother you.
okay, that's sweet though. You want to join in on this after prediction video that I'm joining now?
Absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
I love doing that.
So yeah, Jacob's here, my good old pal. We're gonna
Hey.
be doing the he's going to be joining me for the August edition of the Oscar predictions. I was supposed to post one in I think April, but the footage got completely fucked.
Yeah.
So this is the first one for the channel for this new season. And Jacob's here.
Hey, perfect. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so this is gonna be a long shoot. So let's just go immediately into it. I'm just gonna go on a wild limb here. I mean, I know your predictions are on the same, but I'm going on my notes app.
Okay.
I'm going to go on a wild limb here and say we both have Past Lives, Oppenheimer, Kills of the Flower Moon, and Barbie.
And what else do we have?
I think I know what you're referring to, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think those what five or six that you mentioned,
I went
I
four.
think are four. I can't do math. I think those are pretty safe. I
Yeah,
feel like those are going to be I think those are going to be nomination leaders. Maybe not so much for Past Lives, but I do think Past Lives has
yeah.
that kind of
By nature of
heart
what it is.
behind it. Yeah, but I think Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer could be your one, two, three in terms of nomination. Throw any of them out, and any of them could be leading. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those four are in. Past Lives for me is a little bit lower, just because I want to see how it stands up later in the season. Because I think a lot of the times with Past Lives, we're going to compare it to Coda, and we're going to compare it to Everything Everywhere being, acting heavy
The little
type
indie
of.
that could.
Yeah. My worry is that with movies like Killers of the Flower Moon, Color Purple, Oppenheimer, Barbie, those kind of stuff, that's where like Past Lives could be a SAG player if it can get in amongst all of these with its tiny cast. And so it's going to have to be a lot of heart behind it. So I have it a little bit lower, but I do think as of now, I can't think of anything else to put in over it.
I think the only thing that I can accept being like putting that above one of them for me would be probably like Dune, and I by nature of like, it's not out yet, no one's seen it, and we're not like it's not like officially delayed yet. And for the record, we're filming this on the 8th of August. So I don't know if it's been delayed since we filmed this. So take that for what you will. If it doesn't get delayed, I think it's gonna get in. I just can't call it safe by nature.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's exactly what you said. Like, it's a lot like Dune 1, where I was like, this is super safe for a nomination, not super safe for a win. Um, but but I do feel like at this point, any one of Barbie, Oppenheimer, or Killers of the Flower Moon definitely could still win the Oscar. Um, I just think with Dune, it comes down to what nominations is it going to get? What nominations will it lose to something like Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, or Oppenheimer?
I can
And
already
so,
tell it's Hall. Like it's not gonna pull off the 6 wins again.
nope,
Like I can already tell. Like
nope,
just by like we'll get to it obviously, but like already it's not winning production design.
yeah.
It has a really it could probably lose score. Like I can already pinpoint like will it win nothing? No, but it's not gonna have as good a haul as its first one. And I'm like, why would that win if it like wins less than the first?
And I think especially with the first Dune, we've got to remember that the first Dune, when it came out a year after COVID, when COVID was still very much a thing.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like huge name directors and huge like these three different blockbusters that came along right before it type of thing. It was really, with a lot of these categories, it was in competition with something that definitely deserved to be in the running, but was never going to be on that same kind of scale. And
Right.
now we've got movies on that scale. So that's where I think Dune might falter a little bit when it comes to it.
Yeah, what happened to the first Dune is not normal. Like, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like, clearly it was it was like a, a sign of when it came out. And I'm not saying it would have done poorly in a different year, but I definitely would not have pulled off what it pulled off. But I digress. It's definitely like if it if it like pulls through this one and it like, it works. I see no reason why it wouldn't get nominated. If we're talking wins, I gotta say I think Oppie, little old Oppenheimer, man, that's looking really good right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some categories right now, especially right after seeing it, where I was like sound. There's
Mhm.
a a category that Dune won last time. I see
But that
no
one still.
way of Oppenheimer. Oh, I don't know. I think
I
Oppenheimer's
mean,
got it.
let's see. Let's see, of course.
Mhm.
But I do feel like, well, with Oppie, you got like again, well, I don't want to skip ahead, but to sound, but I do think that Oppenheimer is at worst competing to win a lot of techs.
Mhm.
At
Yeah,
worst, like obviously it's not going to win like costumes, but like that doesn't need that.
yeah,
I do think with Oppenheimer, it's at the most emotionally gratifying film in the world. Maybe not compared to someone like Past Lives, but I do think Oppenheimer, like nobody dislikes it. Like it's kind of that thing where I when I watched it, I thought, oh, I think some people,
mhm.
I was blown away by the movie, especially as someone who's not a Nolan guy. I was watching and like I think some audiences are gonna be a little put off by a little detached. And no, that's just not what's happened. I was
Yeah.
very wrong about that.
It's gotten still 4.3 on Letterboxd,
That's why.
8.6 on IMDb. It's like in the top 50. It's actually number 31 of like the IMDb top
I mean,
150.
that's gonna go down, obviously, but like
But
it's
I mean, it's still been weeks after, and the it's 91% with the audience. Just going through like the different audience
yeah.
ratings, it's been like through the roof.
The audiences, I've noticed like audiences are more into it than Barbie. Like that's what caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I don't think they're going to see it as much as Barbie, mainly because
no,
it's 3 hours and it's
like a heavy
incredibly
problem.
draining. But yeah, it seems like people are like really, really into it. And a lot of people who, it seemed like there were people who were excited to go see Barbie that ended up liking it, and there are people that um like weren't excited that ended up saying like, okay, well, it was good enough. Whereas like Oppenheimer, it's like people who maybe weren't excited to go see it were left saying like this is like insane.
Incredible. Yeah. It definitely has the stuff. Obviously, part pairing with Barbie, it's such a phenomenon. Like I do think Barbenheimer is a story of like, okay, well, not
Mhm.
a movie story of the year, but the good Hollywood story of the year.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to be something that like we definitely look back on. I mean, I can't think of. I know that people were talking about, oh, Nolan did it with The Dark Knight and
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia, but like it still was never to this scale. You
No,
know.
like I work at a theater. People are still watching those movies.
Uh-huh.
3 weeks
Yeah.
later, like I was working yesterday. It topped Ninja Turtles and Meg, like the new ones.
And it also like we've talked about a lot, not just in this little
Bubble.
snippet, but over over the past couple of years we've talked about like with 2020 there were a lot of movies that got into the Oscars that it was an anomaly, and like 2021 we just talked about Dune and that being almost like an anomaly, and it's like with this, of course, there's no benefit to the strikes or anything like that, but because the strikes were put in play, people started, pushing Gran Turismo, push back, and everything like that. So now Oppenheimer can stay in IMAX for even longer, and
I mean,
Barbie's going to stay in theaters, and people are going to go see these because there's not much else they can see because these were already released in theaters before that happened.
right. Yeah, no, I think the like Barbie, I'm saying people still kind of like be like, is Barbie getting nominated? It is.
Yeah.
I think it's as safe as it can be. I understand that it's always gonna have something in its way, just by nature of what the movie is, but it's clearly not enough to take down the movie. Like,
Yeah.
this is I think this is I don't want to be that guy, but it kind of is, in a sense, the Top Gun Maverick of this year.
Yeah,
Like,
Well,
Top Gun
I have
Maverick,
another thought for what the Top Gun Maverick is going to be, but
I know what that is, and I do think there's a case for it, but I think in the terms of like it's just kind of unavoidable.
Mhm.
Barbie, and on top of being just excellent movies, Top Gun was. I mean, I don't think Barbie's gonna like last as long as Top Gun did, but like no other movie has in history. But I think Barbie's gonna last for a while. You know what I mean? Like it's not just gonna go away. Like its box office run is gonna end eventually. That's just how every movie works. But like I think it's gonna be in the conversation for like until like next year.
Of course, I have a different opinion for what like the quote unquote Top Gun Maverick is, but I mean, I do agree with what you're saying in that like what I don't know where you can say that this isn't going to get nominated. It made the money. It is universally loved by audiences, critics, etc. It's a very well put together and well made movie that people are really talking about.
Yeah.
It's not like when No Way Home made a whole bunch of money and people said, "Oh, it's going to get nominated because it made almost $2 billion." It's like no, like
Yeah.
this is like this is one of those traditional blockbusters that is very well made and very well put out.
It's like a respected film, not that No Way
Yes.
Home was like No Way Home was a loved film,
Mhm.
but it was by no means a respected film. But not
Exactly.
not not like a criticism, but like that's just not what it was.
No,
Whereas
I mean
you
it's
know,
I love it. No, I completely agree with you.
like no one's calling Barbie a sellout. Like,
Mhm.
after that, I have holdovers at number 6. And I gotta say, I need to like have something from the festivals, from TIFF at
Yeah.
least. But my God, the TIFF lineup is looking so bare bones. And I feel like the holdovers is the only one from there. Like, I mean, we'll see what Next Goal Wins looks like, and maybe something like American Fiction can like stick out, or Hitman. But like Holdovers right now seems like the only TIFF film that like will make a splash.
I have it as my number 9 right now.
Oh,
And I agree. It's like I have it in strictly for, the director, writer, um, you know,
stars.
the cast. But I mean, I enjoyed the trailer, but
The
the
trailer
trailer to me
definitely
didn't
didn't.
scream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the trailer didn't make me go, "Oh, it's in." It just kind of went. I mean, it's a good trailer.
yeah, I agree. And
I think it could strike the right chord though at the festival.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's going to be the the grumpy old man meets kid who makes him happy,
Yeah,
the the a man called Otto type of situation where people will leave the theater and be like, oh, this is so
he's nice
heartwarming and
now.
uplifting. Yeah, he's not, he teaches everyone to be nice.
Did it?
And I would be utter, unless this movie is like a complete piece of garbage, I would be truly surprised if this wasn't in the top 3 for People's Choice.
If it's mid, it could maybe miss out.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I just think there's so many things that people will leave going like, oh, that's heartwarming, and
Yeah,
then be like, okay, let's
yeah.
give
Like
it
I think
the let's give it
like
the
Next Goal Wins. I feel like that's what's that is. Like, oh yeah, that was
yeah.
good, and then never talk about it again.
Yeah, and I wonder if the Ted Lasso of it all kind of factors into Next Goal Wins.
I feel like I like Ted Lasso, and that's not the most original story in the world. And Next Goal Wins was made before Ted Lasso ever came out.
I mean, technically not, but Ted Lasso was created in like the early 2010s.
I mean, like the show.
Yeah,
Don't care about
yeah.
the
No, no,
commercial.
no. I know, but I'm just mean like heartwarming soccer story.
Yeah,
Like,
I think the comparisons are inevitable, but I do think that I mean I have Next Goal Wins at like number 12, just because kind of like the searchlight of it all and the Taika of it all. I feel like it's
mhm.
worth considering to some extent. I'm excited for the movie, but I don't think it's gonna. And if it's like really good, it wins TIFF, then all right, fine. But I don't know, something's just off with that one. Maybe Searchlight just doesn't
I
catch a break this year.
I have a thought. Next Goal Wins is going to be the greatest beer run of this year. A movie where people are like, "Oh, you've got to like it's inevitable that you've got to think about it." It's got the
And
Oscar
then
winning writer, and then it's just yeah, it's like people don't think it's very good or very bad. They're like, well, that's a movie that released and we're moving on with our lives.
I feel like the Taika of it all will keep in the conversation a little bit more, just because Taika is like a much more respected person than Peter
Yeah.
Farrelly. And I also don't, and also I think the November release date gives a little bit more leg room than like Greatest Beer Run, where it premiered and then came out. But I see the comparison though. I buy it. I buy it. Although I don't think it'll suffer like exactly the
No,
same.
no. Yeah, I don't think it'll be that. Plus, I always have to wonder how the delays are going to be taken. Are people going to be like, "Oh, this thing was delayed 50 times and it's a really good movie," or "Oh, this movie was delayed 50 times and
I
you
mean,
know,
maybe I'm overestimating people, but if you know the context behind the delays, then people will be like, "Oh, fair enough." I mean, it's like, all right, COVID, all right, Army Hammer. It's like I get the delays, but
mhm.
it's been delayed too many times where something's got to give.
I think I have it. Actually, I don't have it in my top 20. I just don't have much faith in it.
I don't have much faith in it either, but I also don't love that I don't have anything from Searchlight. Like if they don't have
Yeah,
anything, they're not going to get nominated. Like they're not
yeah.
like it's happened before, but I don't like it.
No, I agree.
We got our first still of All of Us Strangers yesterday, and it looks good. I mean, I know nothing about it, so I can't say anything. And then obviously, Poor Things. What if that one's like really good, like kind of unavoidable?
Yeah, I definitely have Poor Things in my top 20.
Me too.
I think the thing is people might say the concept is too weird.
Yeah,
But my thing is he's gotten away with weird concepts before. Plus, like, I think it's time for us to start like saying that the academy is changing. I know every year we want to be like, oh, the old heads of the academy, yada
yeah,
yada. But like, I think especially after last year, and with how confident everybody is with Barbie and um, that kind of stuff to get a nomination and potential wins, and I think it's time to say that the academy is changing and getting a
100.
little bit weirder in a way. And I think Poor Things could be something that they latch onto as this is very well made, very well acted, very well scored, whatever. So let's give it the flowers it deserves. So Poor Things is to me like waiting in the wings to see more and to
I mean,
see
we'll
if it's
find out
actually going to
soon.
be something big. Yeah.
I mean, I can already see the reactions out of Venice. Oh, it's fantastic, but it's not an awards thing. Like I know
Mhm.
that's what people are gonna say. But and I do agree the Academy is evolving, but I do think we got to be careful with those Everything Everywhere comparisons. Like I think Everything Everywhere and Barbie, not that Barbie's gonna go down the path of Everything Everywhere, just because that was such an anomaly. But I think with those two, yeah, they're weird films and not Academy films. But those movies like got to people like a very human levels. And will that happen with Poor Things? I mean, maybe. Like I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, I have it at number. Where do I have that rascal? At number 16. I
Yeah,
buy
yeah, I have it 19.
I buy to an extent. So let's talk about what we want to talk about. We both have Spider-Verse still, and you know what? I'll just say it. I'm still confident in it.
I am too. I maybe more than anyone else was like the most confident in Pinocchio last year, and I got burned so hard nomination morning, missing out on score,
More than
song,
song. That was weird.
uh screenplay to Top Gun, which I can't even think about. But I do wonder if I think it's hard being a sequel, being an animated sequel. I think there's a
Me and
lot going
comic book
against it.
sequel.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot going against it, but I know you have been saying it for a while. But I do think the family aspect of it is very strong, and I think that that's something that could help it give it that thing that people can latch themselves onto. I also think if you really think about it, I made a tweet about it. It has a similar story to Barbie in the sense of someone who is needs to escape their reality to tell their own story. I mean, it has a similar like story to Barbie and to Everything Everywhere in terms of story of needing to escape your own actual reality to find yourself. And And so I think with those two, or yeah, with those comparisons, I think for me, right now I have it confidently in. I don't think that it will miss. I think that with Into the Spider-Verse, we saw that they released that at the end of December, had little to no promotion about it, did not push it for Oscars at all, and it ended up just sweeping the season.
Yeah. Also,
And so the
I've heard
love is there.
I've heard some people saying like, why would the first Spider-Verse perform like it did, but this one do better? I'm like, like you said, Spider-Verse came out at the end of the year, and it didn't become what it has become until like a little bit later.
Yeah.
I think, and I mean, it clearly it shows. I mean, the Cross Spider-Verse doubled what Into the Spider-Verse made.
And I can understand to an extent from Sony, because like especially the first Into the Spider-Verse is so monumental in just animation in general. It's such a different out there kind of thing. Whereas, they probably assumed that they were going to be getting something like Lego Movie, which Lego Movie, again, one of my favorite animated films ever, but like from an animation standpoint was a little more straightforward with just like, creating animated characters, putting them in these worlds, etc. But like with Spider-Verse, it was like you're changing the frame rates every 3 seconds. You have all these like little
franchise.
Exactly. And I think from Sony's standpoint, they were like, oh, well, we need to be careful with this because how are people going to actually react to basically seeing a neon rave concert with Spider-Verse as like the background? And so that's the thing. They didn't promote the movie. I don't remember trailers for it. And I remember working at the theater because I just started working at the theater when that came out. I don't remember like too many posters or anything else for it. Like I remember it came out, people loved it. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is like the best animated movie ever made." And then it was like 2 months later it won the Oscar and everyone was like, "What happened? Like where like how did we get to here?" And so that's the thing. And with this Spider-Verse, it's released so early and it's going to have that staying power, I think, throughout the entire year. I mean, it's still in theaters in August.
After 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some people like start to sour on it a little bit, kind of be like, "Oh, the hype has died down." I'm just like, yeah, the monumental hype has died down after 2 months. It's gonna happen to Barbie as well. That's just how this industry works. Like, you know what I mean? I think, yeah, sure, Barbie made more money and all that, but like that doesn't just take away from everything that Spider-Verse accomplished. It's still a movie that critics called like a masterpiece. Like that's another thing. Critics are going to be behind this movie too. It's like changes the game for animation again. Like, yeah, sure, Barbie, another movie made more money doesn't really change the game on that.
It also, I know Super Mario Brothers, that's like the biggest anomaly in the history of existence. How that movie made $1.3 billion, I want to like,
well, I mean,
that has to be studied.
Well, I mean, I haven't idea how it made that much money.
But I mean, with Across the Spider-Verse, I think people are kind of underestimating. It's almost to the money that Up made.
Yeah.
And it's over $600 million. Like it's a huge blockbuster of an animated movie. And I think that definitely needs to be taken into account, given that like when it comes to animated movies, there's only been 10 to ever break the $1 billion mark. And it almost hit 700. So it's like, it's still like the hype might die down a little bit. But the thing is with Spider-Verse, and again, I think with Barbie, when time comes to, I don't see anyone like critics groups, whatever, that aren't going to have either of those in their top 10. And I think that it's going to start getting, the top 10 awards. It's going to start getting well, we'll get to that later, but like the animated feature awards, and it's going to continue to keep its momentum all the way throughout the season. Whereas like something like Pinocchio, I think Pinocchio, they tried to market it, especially the production design, really early, and then they released the film maybe a little too late.
Yeah, I do think like I feel like the Pinocchio comparisons, I'm just like, yeah, they're both animated, but like that's about all they have in common. Yeah. I was also fooled by Pinocchio. I thought it was going to connect to people in a way that it didn't. But Spider-Verse is connecting to people in the way that I thought Pinocchio would. Like, that is happening. Yeah, no, I don't really feel much reason for people to start souring on it out of nowhere. What other rascally old picture contenders are there? I have something that like almost no one else has, and I'm just so confused. Like, oh, like, I'm not confused why no one else has it, but I'm confused why I feel like I'm the only pundit taking it seriously. That's Sofia Coppola's Priscilla.
I am taking it seriously in other categories. I I don't have it in my top. I have it in my top 20. I have it 13
Oh,
for a picture. But I'm so I think with Elvis, one of the things about Elvis was you had the Presley family like fully behind it. And it already seems like they might not be fully behind this, even though like if like this is like a personal story, like like very behind it, it's etc.
right.
Um, I don't think it's gonna have that kind of like admiration. And I think when it comes to the movie, it's not gonna be like that's the thing with Elvis. It was such a uplifting movie in a way of like this is the biggest rock star of
Ever.
any generation, and this is how he was treated, and like this is like he never got to like really experience his life or anything like that. I don't think Priscilla is going to be that clearly.
I mean, I feel like Sofia Coppola and Baz Luhrmann are like the polar opposite
Yeah,
filmmakers. I feel like
yeah,
I feel like yes, Elvis is a key character in the movie, obviously, but I feel like they're going to differentiate themselves enough where I'm like, I don't really think people are going to have like a we just kind of did this mentality towards it. I do think like look, if the movie's not like up to standard, then yeah, forget about it. But I don't know. I feel like Priscilla is something that could pop up and
mhm,
like become like the next like the big surprise out of the festival. I feel like we're gonna
yeah.
get at least one. Like we're all considering Holdover, we're all considering Maestro. I feel like Priscilla is the one that like we're not really taking this seriously, and then boom pops out of nowhere, and it's like, oh great, now it's a big thing.
And again, I've never read the book. I don't know a ton about like the story that they're telling, but I also have to wonder what they're going to say about Elvis.
I imagine it's not going to be the sweetest.
Yeah, that's why like and I wonder if there's going to be people who definitely don't take that the best of ways, given that we just had a movie that was like basically like, oh, Elvis is like the most like tragic character in history, and now it's going to be something that's like, well, let's actually see who he really is in a way. But I still have it as 13. I think like you have to keep Sofia Coppola's name in the conversation, and I think like especially from the trailers, it does look like it's got a lot of um tech
Yeah,
and costumes and production design and stuff like that.
I
I have to see it. I have to see it first.
I can accept that for now. I don't have Color Purple in my lineup. I took it out.
I Here's the thing. I still have it. It's I have it until proven otherwise. And my thing is, if it comes out, I think it's a major contender in a lot of places.
If it's not
But
good though, like I'll rewatch this
well, okay,
like, and I'm just like, this is like, well, I took it up. Like, I agree that if it's a good movie, then like, yeah, sure. But like, I rewatched the trailer recently. I'm just like, this doesn't look like that good. And I have, if it's, and I don't think this is like the team to like get a mid movie in.
I understand. Understand with because it's not like the director, whatever. But I mean, it's still you got Les Mis did Insane, and people think that that is not a good movie.
I mean, that had decent reviews though, at least.
Yeah,
And
but
also,
I don't
we
think
are
this is
talking
gonna
about
have like
an Oscar.
truly scathing reviews.
I don't know. I don't know. That trailer just did not sell me at all. I mean, I buy it. I buy it.
Mhm.
Like if it's good, then yeah, fuck it. Forget everything I just said. But like right now, I'm going on the idea that it might be pretty whack.
I still have a lot of faith in it, especially in the acting. I definitely think it's smart when a musical like this keeps a lot of the actors from the Broadway run, actors that won, Tonys for the movie.
It's not going
Um,
to translate though.
but I think it
That
lets them get
old
into the
Ben
character a
God
little bit.
himself.
Okay, again, he was good in the movie, even though, people might not have liked the movie. He at least like was good.
There was this. There. I mean, I think it was more an age thing that people were put off by him. Although
Yeah.
there, I will say that one. there were a couple moments where I was like, oh, Ben, no.
But I mean, I definitely think that you've got a lot of people who have already made their name as being actors and actresses, Coleman Domingo, Taraji P. Henson and Danielle Brooks and all that. So um I definitely think that I still have faith in it. But we have to see. I have to gauge your interest of because it's going to TIFF. What do you think about Dumb Money?
Well, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I heard test screenings went very poorly,
Okay.
and the trailer did not entice me. If it's good, then absolutely maybe.
Mhm.
Like I definitely see the haul. I mean, I'm gonna see it in like a month, so I guess we'll find out soon. But I,
I
right now, I'm not so sure.
yeah. I just I know you and I have talked about it offline. I know it's a lot to give it that Adam McKay comparison, but I do think in terms of like how he's telling the story feels like a way Adam McKay would do it. Again, I know Adam McKay has a little bit more. He is an Oscar winner, and he's got a little bit more,
He's a
love from the Academy.
very
Um,
respected man in the industry, given how he's treated online.
but I do wonder if this is Craig Gillespie's I Tonya in a way where it's like, or no, his Big Short in a way where it's like this is like the breakthrough to get him into it. I have a lot of questions about it because I think from the trailer I think it looks like something um it looks similar to Vice or something like that, but who knows, I guess we'll find out. That's my thing. I do have dumb money in one category that we will get to. I just wonder, I wonder if the type of filmmaking kind of breaks it through just because we haven't gotten an Adam McKay movie since Don't Look Up, and so I'm wondering if that kind of filmmaking, I mean, be it what it is, the Pam and Tommy series in my opinion was pretty good and was well loved, and um so who knows. I wonder if that's one that kind of takes a very, very recent thing, something that is like just the most off the wall concept, and actually makes something out of it.
Is it too
Uh,
recent? Like, I wonder.
that's what I wonder.
Is it like too soon? Even like, man,
I wonder if it's one of those things that's so recent that it won't work, but it's so weird that it will. Like it's I mean, it's a guy on Reddit crashed this like Wall Street during COVID. Like it's like insane. But I wonder if it's one of those things that 5 years from now, if they would have made this movie, it would have been like, oh, that's something that happened. Where it's like making this movie now, it's like, oh, I remember this, I like actively remember this happening. Um, which is kind of where I'm at on that.
maybe. But also, I do think Sony will have its hands full with Spidey. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they gotta put a lot of effort into that one. Just kind of the natural obstacles that movie has, and if Dumb Money's not good, then kind of dump it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, I also, I just wonder with Spider-Man if they will, if Spider-Man does hit that stride where it
It's just like in.
yeah, and like people are putting it in their, their top tens. It might win a couple Best Picture Critics Awards here and there, and it's like, oh well, this
First
movie
one
will get
did.
in by itself.
I will say
Mhm.
a few I'm now looking at yours, and I will say I two movies that you have that I don't, other than Color Purple, is The Zone of Interest and Maestro. I do not have those two, although they are
Yeah,
close.
I the Zone of Interest. I I got burned last year not putting Triangle of Sadness in my top 10, and I'm kind of still held over from that. Where I don't think the Zone of Interest is
Emily.
going to be as I was. Look, I was on the After Sun train. I was on the Pinocchio train. I made mistakes. Um,
I was on the anti-Elvis train. I know what it feels like.
but yeah, I think with the zone of interest, it okay. My whole thing is based off it winning Cannes, and
It didn't
it
win Can.
okay. Well, I've look to all the listeners. I've been moving. I've driven like 24 hours in 3 days. I I was under the assumption that it did,
I
but
did.
it's A24, right?
It is A24.
Okay.
It's. I mean, look, I'm not gonna. I'm okay with it. Like, I get it. I get the prediction. It is like wildly acclaimed, and I'm gonna be seeing it at TIFF. That's like one of the most anticipated easily. But from the people I know, friends of mine who have seen the film, they're like, they only like started considering it when the acclaim started kicking in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not great. From what I can tell from the movie, it's a very like, yeah, the critics will give it a push, but will they give it a push like I remember like last year people were saying that about After Sun. They were saying like, oh, After Sun's gonna get this grand critics push and it's gonna like get the best picture nomination. I'm just like, yeah, I got Paul a nomination. But like, I mean, I love that movie. I know you love that movie, but that Paul would not have gone in it if that category wasn't pretty weak.
Yeah.
I
No,
do
I
think
agree.
Zone of Interest could get a push, and maybe it's big enough to get it in. But from what I can tell, again, sight unseen, it's just not it. That's just not like what that movie is.
So, and granted, look, it it's an obvious mistake. It has the same lead actress. Um, Zone of Interest got runner up, and Anatomy of a
Yeah.
Fall got the winner. So that's not my fault. I'm not gonna blame myself for that.
You
But
ain't gonna
um,
apologize.
I even keeping the Zone of Interest in. I think especially with the A24 backing um and it seems like especially with awards A24 is on the come up, and I think a lot of people in the industry are probably going to be looking at the strike started happening. Disney, Warner Brothers, all of those large studios didn't come to the table. A24 did.
A24 already
and
signed the deal.
and so I feel like there could be some subconscious push to be like, oh, let's get more.
Well, their
um
actors can't. I mean, not that actors are going to get in for Zone of Interest. I mean, not that I've heard anything about that. But their actors can push. Their actors can
mhm.
campaign because
Yep.
A24 is good people.
And so um yeah, I think that definitely that might that might help it a little bit. But I think with me it is Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall are interchangeable at that 10 spot.
I have Anatomy of a Fall in, and I think that, yeah, I think part of it is, it's the can winner, but also, I think it is catching on in a way. It got announced for NIF this morning. It's going to TIFF. Maybe it'll go. Is it going to Telluride? Hold on, give me 1 second. Let's see what the premiere status for TIFF is. It's going to Telluride too, so it's gonna have a really really nice festival run. Plus, Sandra Hüller is getting these raves. I do think Anatomy Fall will have the pieces to get in.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Even if it's not like a top tier contender.
I think that both of those are going to be kind of pretty up there.
Yeah.
um when it comes to not only best picture, but like you said, acting and directing and screenplay and all that kind of stuff.
And as for Maestro, I I mean, I know the arguments for Maestro, but I mean, granted, again, test screenings, total grain of salt. I haven't heard the most glowing things. I do think it's a little telling that as of right now, it's only doing Venice. It's skipping TIFF was not what I expected from that movie.
I have Maestro in for the same reason that you said. um for the same reason that you said you had.
Searchlight.
Yes. I don't think they're going to go without having a Netflix movie in it. And I can't think. May December, in my opinion,
I don't think that's happening.
is not doing anything other than potentially Julianne Moore, which she's not even on my list. Well, if you talk to Clayton Davis, Will Ferrell's picking up a producing nomination for it.
Is that true? Hold on. Is that true? If I don't think it's happening, but let's say hypothetically, if May December got nominated, Will Ferrell will be nominated.
I guess so. It's his company.
Goddamn.
But yeah, I don't think they're gonna go without a Netflix movie. I think Netflix is so I don't think it's a winning resume, but I think Netflix is so ingrained with the Academy that there's got to be at least one.
I mean, it's kind of what I said with Searchlight. If they don't have anything, they won't get it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that the Academy is like looking for a Netflix movie to nominate. They just, for the past couple of years, they've had the stuff. You know, they've
Yeah, and
had,
I think Maestro is going to have that though.
and yeah, that totally, 100%. That is possible. But that's not like a driving force for me, especially because I buy Netflix blanking before I buy Searchlight blanking, and I don't know if those reviews aren't like great, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if a movie like Maestro can survive like middling reviews, especially like out of the gates, like and early on.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Although I mean, it's a justifiable prediction. I'm not criticizing.
Saltburn was always a sight unseen type of thing for me. And now the site has been seen, and we know at least what two pictures look like.
We know what the building looks like.
And we know what the back of Barry Keoghan, which I have to out myself for this. I thought that those were pictures of Poor Things, and I thought Barry Keoghan was Willem Dafoe.
Peter Humans.
Don't ask me how or why. I was like, oh, I almost tweeted in our group message. I almost was like, yeah, this look at the new picture of Poor Things, and then I waited, and yeah, it was definitely Saltburn, but I don't know. It's so iffy for me. I wonder if it can get that last second kind of love to push it through, or if it's just going to be a good movie that is a good movie and not an Oscar contender or winner across the board. I have no idea. I have it at my 12, but it's still so up in the air for me.
Yeah, I to me, I'm just, could it be like not like, I'm not saying Emerald Fennell's just gonna get nominated for everything she makes now, but I do think she has a lot of goodwill. And I do feel like if Saltburn pulls off, I don't see why the Academy would ignore it unless it's like really like not their cup of tea.
We know what it is, but it's still so vague that it's like, what is it actually going to like be? So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious, and I need people to see the movie for me to actually start putting it in. It almost like, I know it's like a completely different thing, but it feels like how I felt about Little Women a couple years ago when it released so late and everyone was like, oh, is this going to? And I was like, I need people to see it and people to say it's good and it's in for me to be like, okay, it's good and it's in. And
Okay.
until then, I have no idea.
I mean, we're gonna find out soon because it's going to London, and also I'm pretty sure it's going to Telluride.
Yeah.
Everything's going to not TIFF, basically. Fuck, this lineup sucks. A few other ones that we didn't mention, I think it's worth mentioning. I think the big one is Air, that people are still looking at. To that, I will say, if you're gonna look at me and say that Spider-Verse has lost steam, and then turn around and predict Air, come on. Like, look at yourself a little bit. Do I think Air could happen? Yes, I do. I have it at number 15 right now. But that, you'll want to talk about losing steam. I think Air, even from the get-go, I can tell something was just off. I'm like, yeah, the pieces are definitely there, but something was always off for me.
Yeah, and I think, again, this is another like, I'm basing so much off Adam McKay. This is like another like type of Adam McKay, like the super fast editing, the kind of zany off the wall script, the good performances, the sports aspect, all that kind of stuff like melded together. I definitely can see a world where it does pick up some critic love, maybe, but yeah, I just think it released way too early and it released at a bad time. I think if anything, they should have released it around like the NBA finals or something to like coincide with
Well,
that.
well, I think that it was like the date was like intentional because of like Michael Jordan's like number or something like that.
Yeah. Um,
But
but that just doesn't help it. And it's not, it's not, it doesn't have like the cultural significance of something like
like
Black
Spider-Man.
Panther, Get Out, Spider-Man, Everything Everywhere, like one of those movies that can release that early in the year and make it the entire way.
Yeah, I feel like if we started like we know people like it, and if like Amazon really like like if Michael Jordan goes to like events or something like that, like if we start seeing like big delays, then all right, maybe. But right now, I think I've kind of lost faith in it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like maybe Viola Davis for the pure fact of being Viola Davis,
Maybe
but like,
screenplay. Maybe screenplay.
yeah, which I definitely think in a week original screenplay, which I'm very excited to get into that category, because I have a hot take. I think in a week year, it just depends what all is coming out, and what all gets put in the original screenplay category.
Um, Ferrari announced for NIF and Venice, which is that is the festival run for Ferrari.
Mhm.
I think what really sold me on this, even though I haven't heard the best reactions, I do think Neon buying it for how much, like what, like 90, oh, did it cost 90 million and Neon bought it? I think it might have been that, but either way, Neon buying this and it's like a $90 million thing. It's like there's got to be some confidence in there for them to make that purchase.
Neon is like the Oscar whispers in a way, where it's like they can release something that gets very little, at least get something in. So I definitely think especially Adam Driver has to be talked about, but
100%. I agree with
from the
that.
movie, I have no idea.
I have no idea
Um,
either. I will find out in a couple weeks, but
yeah,
maybe that's something.
I don't think it's gotten the best run so far, but The Boy and the Heron, being the last Miyazaki, I'm interested to see kind of, maybe he breaks into the um screenplay category, or maybe he gets something like that. I think Spider-Verse is our animated that's but I am just curious with how The Boy and the Heron's going to be talked about, and especially with you having it be one of like the few, if any, animated films opening TIFF is huge.
I mean, I think that's going to be the big title,
Yeah.
genuinely. Like I don't mean like it's going to win anything, but like why maybe. I do think Boy and the Heron is definitely going to be one of the most talked about. Problem is, it's been released in Japan already,
Mhm.
and while there have been some glowing reviews, the sixes and the sevens they do exist,
Mhm.
and that doesn't give me the most confidence in like a Best Picture nomination for the kind of movie it is, compared to like a Spider-Verse, which has the tens and the nines.
That's what I just wonder. I wonder how much of it being Miyazaki's like final film is going to put into effect as well. Um, and then other than that,
Other than that, it's like all right, Bob Marley. I mean, maybe.
yeah,
I mean, that trailer
which
did not do anything for me.
no,
Other than
it
King.
didn't. It didn't at all for me either. Yeah, I can't really think of like.
I
It
mean, yeah.
seems like other than that, it's like you're kind of just like grasping at straws.
I mean,
Um,
Evil Does Not Exist. Was confirmed. The new Hamaguchi was confirmed for NIF today, and it was like basically confirmed for TIFF as well. That could be something maybe if it's really good. Bike Riders, maybe that could be the Best Picture nominee that doesn't get a festival run.
yep,
Maybe, although I want to see it first. And I do want to point out for the Netflix thing, The Killer. Maybe.
maybe, yeah.
Like if it's like really good, then like maybe. And also we just kind of lost faith in Rustin altogether, other than actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I don't want to, but it feels so like dead. Like it just like
Yeah.
there's no, it feels like there was more excitement for it 2 years ago than there is right now.
Yeah, it feels like people are just like, all right, let's go see how Coleman is. And then
Exactly. It's
whatever.
who knows, but yeah, I it's not in my top 20.
Not me either. Oopsie poopsie, I forgot to do an outro. But yeah, that's the end of that. Well, that's the end of that one. Me and Jacob, we did actor, we did actress, we did supporting actor, we did even supporting actress. We also did every other category. We just, the video's too long already. Jacob's coming back. There's gonna be more videos once I, edit them. So just fucking be patient. Like, subscribe, share, or else I'm gonna kill and eat Jacob. You don't want. He's a good boy. You don't want me doing that. All right, fuck off. Leave my house. God, fucking damn it.